If your disorganized shop is stressing you out today, I've got 13 easy ways to get organized in your shop. So I know getting organized can be overwhelming and you don't need to have all the fancy storage like what I have. This has been years in the making. So wherever you're at right now, you can apply some of these things we're going to talk about today in your shop. So today we're going to talk about material storage, small parts, how to store things that you use all the time, and where and how to store things that you don't use as often, but you still want to have on hand. So let's get going. Now, one of the most common things that clutters and disorganizes a shop is offcuts and leftovers. So the number one thing you can do is have a rule for what you're going to keep and what you're going to throw out. I get it, especially with the cost of materials, you want to keep everything. And I used to be the worst at it. I would keep every little piece that I had, and even little pieces down to this, because I thought, you know what, this is a nice piece of maple, I might use it. So I started implementing a rule recently. Anything that is smaller than my hand gets thrown out. Even though this is a piece I might use, oops. Now, if you make small projects, maybe that works for you, but not for me. Also, when I looked at plywood, I was keeping a lot of thin strips. So on plywood, I even got a little more aggressive and I started saying anything less than 12 inches, I'm gonna toss out, or anything thinner than 1.5 inches. But the key is you have to stick to the rule. And as enticing as that little piece of maple might look, you just gotta get rid of it. But even with a good rule, your shop can still get overrun with offcuts. Believe me, I know it. I used to have offcuts all over the walls. I had bins that were filled with wood. I was just squirreling away wood everywhere because I thought that I would use it one day, right? We all think that, but you won't. So the idea is get a dedicated space. I made this rolling wood cart a few months back and it has been awesome. I took all of those extra places that I was storing the wood and I combined them all into one spot, and anything that does not fit on here, I don't keep. Now for your shop, this might be smaller, it might be larger. The key is to just have a dedicated spot that if it does not fit here, you don't keep it. So if the wood don't fit, there's nothing really funny for me to say about that. And if the wood don't fit, I gotta pitch it. Now the third and last tip on material is make sure you're using all the spaces that you have available to you. For me, I use the walls in my shop to store a lot of the lumber. These aren't necessarily offcuts, although I do sneak some up there. But I have this up here for longer boards and things that I'm gonna be using, maybe not right now, but they're gonna be for a project down the road. But you might not have tall walls like this. You might be in a basement workshop. I used to have one of those myself and I would store lumber in between the rafters. So think about different places that you can put lumber that is out of the way, especially for long boards like these. It's going to help free up space in your shop. After materials, the next most common thing that clutters up the shop is small parts. We've got screws and bolts in all kinds of different types and sizes and all kinds of specialty fasteners and other things that you need around the shop. So how do you keep track of them and what's the best way to do it? I'm going to show you a few different ways that I do it, and then you can judge if that works for you in your shop. So the system that I've been using the longest is this one right here. I've had these for over a decade. This is like a small parts organizer box drawer system. And these are great because they come in different sizes and you can pull them out and take them to the bench. So I've got the large sizes here, which I use for a lot of my fasteners, especially the ones in the 1-pound boxes. And then a lot of specialty items that I have in these smaller drawers up here. But the most important thing with a system like this is to know what is inside each drawer. So for these 1-pound fasteners, I just take the front of the box off and put it right in there so I know what's in the drawer. But for the smaller ones and for items that don't come in boxes, I use labels. And I've done these in most of them, but not everywhere. And it's really important for the small things. And so a lot of you are probably just like me and you've had a hand-me-down either from your dad or your granddad or somebody else, and you have their fasteners in one of these containers. And I don't really know what's in here. So a lot of times I'm playing the old 3-card Monte, constantly pulling these trays out and trying to figure out what's inside it. So like I said before, labeling is one of the most important things that you can do for a small parts system like this. So I printed out labels for all of these and it feels really nice. And now I know exactly where everything is inside these organizers. On the back wall of the shop, in my cabinet back here, I have a little pull-out tray that has some of these portable small parts organizers on here. And I have the labels on them so I can tell exactly what they are so I can grab what I need. And this one, for instance, is hanging hardware. So what I like to do with these portable ones is I like to organize them by specific tasks that I need for each one. So this has all my hanging hardware in it. If I open it up, it's got everything in here that I would need to hang pictures or anything else in the house. So whenever we're bringing in new home decor, I will grab this, take it inside, and then I can do everything I need to just using what's inside here. I have other ones for electrical connectors, drawer hardware, cabinet hardware, and then screws as well. So what's really nice about some of these styles, and there's lots of different styles you can choose from, very similar to like the ones on the bench top, I can pull this out, take this to the bench and use the certain size screw I need, or if I need to take this on the job site, and then I can just take out one of the little trays for the specific screws I need and not have to lug around the entire box once I go to the project. There's lots of different versions of these, and most of them have some type of locking feature and lock together. So check it out because there are some cool systems out there that work together and you can add on accessories to make these even more versatile. The last way that I store small parts in my shop is specific to fasteners. I have a lot of, so that would be me nails, as well as screws. So in this drawer here is where I have all of my pneumatic nailers, and I have this cool little tray that I made for it, and it can just drop right in. So this is just 1/2-inch plywood, and I just glued and brad nailed this together, and I've got little labels on here for all the sizes. So I have a bunch of different sizes of 18 gauge, as well as some 23 gauge and 16 gauge, and even some crown staples. And I have some little inserts to get some extra space out of it as well. So that's a cool little tip, is building something into the top of a drawer that you can take out. You can get some extra mileage and storage out of your drawers that way. This top drawer is where I store all of my screws that I use the most. So I like using these containers here. These stack in perfectly. I can make kind of a grid system in the drawer, and they have this nice locking feature. So these are containers that came from the pocket screws that I have. You can also get them separately, but I have larger sizes and smaller sizes, and they nest nicely with little indentations, so that when you shake them around, they don't go flying everywhere. So just kind of have to pack it out so that there's not gaps in there, so that when I open and close it, it doesn't slide back and forth. And with the size of my drawer, I can fit 3 high. So I can stack a lot of different fasteners in this drawer, and it'll close no problem. So having a small container system like this in a drawer is a great way to keep it out of sight, but easily accessible. All right, so staying on the back wall of the shop, let's talk about some tool organization. So probably one of the first things that you're going to start out with are cordless drills. That was one of the first things I bought, was a 4-piece cordless tool set. But since then, it's obviously expanded. I now have 12 volts and 20 volts and 18 volts, and I've got all kinds of batteries and chargers because I am using different platforms. So you want to have a spot for them. I used to store them in the little blow molded plastic cases they came with, or the bags, and they were just kind of scattered about, and they weren't easy to access, and I didn't know exactly where they were all the time. So a saying that I love is a place for everything and everything in its place, and that's exactly what this is. So having a cordless drill charging station, I know exactly where all my batteries go, the tools, and whenever I'm done with my drills, I will put them back here, and I know exactly where to get them. So I would highly recommend to have a home base for your drills, because it's one of the most used tools in your shop, more than likely. So a great addition to your drill storage is having the accessories in the same spot. So I've got 2 drawers here, one for driving and one for drilling. So in here, I've got things like my right angle drill bit and just a lot of the extra bits and accessories for driving fasteners. And then on this side, I've got things like spade bits and countersinks and those types of accessories for drilling. But the things that I use the most, I keep them on this little slide out tray with magnetic bars. And this is a great addition that I really love this because it keeps it right in front of me. So this is my favorite countersink bit. I use this the most. That's why it's in the front, and I have easy access to it. I can pull it out here. So that's one of the things you want to think about is, again, keeping those things that you use most often visible to you, easily accessible, and not hidden in drawers. It's going to make your life a lot easier. Now, as you do get into cordless tools, your collection is going to grow, and I have a dedicated cabinet here that is just for my cordless handheld tools. So I have some of my most used ones here. I can quickly grab them, take them to the bench, use them, and then put them back. Again, having a home base, super important. And the nice thing about this cabinet is I did make this part adjustable. So I've got these grooves in here and these center panels, so I can slide these out, move them around as I need to. This opening's a little bit more narrow than this one. So as my tool collection grows and changes, I can flex with it. So it's just a great tip in general as you think about storage, is to think about adjustability and not only what your tools today might need, but what your tools in the future might need. Now for my most used non-powered hand tools, I love a good pegboard system. So I made this pegboard hutch right over my cabinets, and it's 60 inches wide and about 38 inches tall. But the great thing about this is that everything is so easily accessible. And a lot of times I get asked, how do you lay it out and how do you figure out where everything goes? I like to group things that make sense. So for me, I've got my safety equipment up top. I've kind of got my levels and squares here. I've got my measuring devices up top. I have some of my demo and prying things right here, some general hand tools with wrenches, chisels, screwdrivers, and then my hammers and a few little hand saws right over here in the corner. So that's a great way to start, but it's gonna change over time, I'm sure. Just start with something, see how it fits, and if you don't like it, you can change it up. That's the beauty of the pegboard system. But one of the things that I do find is as I start taking things out, and especially if I have a helper in the shop or I have somebody grabbing something for me, or putting something away. When I take multiple items, say I'm taking off some trim, I would use all of these. Now when I come back, I don't know exactly where everything goes, or I ask somebody to put it away, they won't know where it goes. So what I'm gonna do is actually use the P-Touch Pro, put a few labels on here, especially in this area right here, because it's not so obvious where these tools go. And also for these labels, I use the chain print function versus the faceplate like I did before, and this helps conserve tape because you're printing them all at one time and then cutting them out, because I'm not really concerned if the sizes of the labels on this don't match each other. So another great way to store some of those most used tools is the French cleat system. And I don't use this in a lot of areas of my shop, but for my clamps, it works really well. So if you're not familiar with what a French cleat is, it's just two interlocking 45-degree angles. So there are strips on the wall that have a 45-degree angle beveled on them, and then anything that you put on them has the same type 45-degree angle, and they just lock in place. So it's really great because you can remove them easily, but it is very secure and they will hold a lot of weight. And they're super adjustable. So I have a lot of my clamps here. All these little racks and holders have French cleats on them so I can move them around and adjust them. I also can use the French cleats to put quick clamps on. And I have my sanding disc storage here, which is great. I also have all of my different grits here, labeled with some P-Touch labels. Works out really well. Now, of course, there's a lot of items that you're not going to need every single day, and so that's more of the midterm to long-term storage. And what I love to use for that is cabinets. So I love having cabinets with drawers as well as wall cabinets with doors, and they work really well to store a lot of things. But the tip here is you need to customize your cabinets. Now, when I first started out, I remember taking this vanity that came out of my brother-in-law's house, and it was free. And so I said, sure, I'll take it. I threw a piece of plywood on top of it and used it in the shop. But if you're using something like an old vanity, then it's just a base cabinet with two doors on it and a big cavity inside. So if you do have that hand-me-down vanity or just a commercial version of a cabinet that is not exactly what you need, you can still customize it. So one of my favorite ways is adding pull-out trays. So if you can put a pull-out tray in a base cabinet, it just gives it a lot more accessibility to the items in the back so things don't get lost. This is an easy add-on to customize a current cabinet. And my favorite way to customize wall cabinets is actually using some cubbies. So you can put these on the side of a door. You may have to upgrade the hinges to take the extra weight, but you get extra access and it allows you to really segment what's inside there, or also adding adjustable shelves. So if you've only got one shelf in the middle, drill some more shelf pins, make your own shelves, and you can have a lot more that you can get into one cabinet. But the best way to customize your cabinets is actually to build custom cabinets. And so that's what I did several years ago. I started on this journey to build out my shop the way that you see it now. And so I built a lot of different cabinets and styles, and I really love the drawers. So I've got the smaller 15-inch variety with 5 drawers, all the way up to the larger 30-inch variety with 3 drawers. So it's great to have a lot of different options for sizes that you need. Like this top one here is great for my grinders because I don't use these a lot, but they have a lot of bulky supplies that go with it, and this is the perfect application. But I have a lot of smaller accessories like nail punches and things like that I don't want drowning in a large drawer, and so I have those really small drawers. They work out great. But a key here is, how do you know what's in each drawer? And actually one thing I just realized, I can use the clear P-Touch labels to put the labels on the tops of the handles. So that's something that's a nice little addition, and this is a really cool, sleek way to label those drawers. So if you want to design some cabinets to meet your exact needs, that is awesome, and that is exactly what I did. But if you don't want to do that and you want to hit the easy button, I do have plans available for this whole modular system. You can mix and match the base cabinets down to a 15-inch increment to fit whatever space you have. I'll have links down below in the description if you want to take your shop organization and cabinetry to the next level. If you want to check out build videos of all the cabinetry that I've made in the shop, I got a playlist queued up for you right there, so you can go see what those are all about before you decide if you want to buy the plans or not. I want to give a big thank you to all those folks that have been joining the FTBT Builders Club, and I'll catch you guys over there on the next episode where we're going to build something awesome.